Hey, welcome to this go-around of Snowmobiler Television. On this week's show, Skidoo's MXZ 850 XRS is up for first burn. We've also got our new Legend trailer in the shop, getting a new plastic floor put down to protect it from carbides and studs. We're also going to get our bearings during shop hustle, and right now we're here at Precision EFI, where we see how they're going to build some big power out of turbo sleds. So let's get things spooled up. STV has been brought to you by Yamaha. Conquer snow with Yamaha. Ford F-Series, Canada's best-selling line of trucks for 52 years. Tough, smart, capable. Kimpex, fueled by fun. Precision EFI is my kind of place. I mean, race cars, snowmobiles, and the pursuit of power. Now, Sebastian and his team are perfectionists at all three of those things, so right now, this guy is in gearhead heaven. Precision EFI has introduced a line of performance parts for Arctic Cat and Yamaha turbo sleds that blend computer power with hardware and hard parts. Their systems range from a Stage 1 flash that builds an extra 30 ponies, all the way up to their Stage 4 that generates 320 horsepower.
Company started 8 years ago. Was only specialized in rally car, road race car, dyno tuning, and then got into snowmobile probably 7 years ago now. I've done two-stroke turbos, and now we are only focusing on developing a performance package on the power sport industry. The basic stage, let's say for the Stage 1, we try to add the first entry level of products. We did not want to interfere any parts on the machine, so we try to keep everything stock and just increase the power out of it. So the Stage 1 gives a 30 horsepower gain, and we keep the OEM muffler, we keep everything, the clutching, we don't touch anything, and it gives a gain of 10 miles per hour on 1,000 foot, which is pretty impressive. And we try to play a lot with the fun factor. For us, it's not only about the peak power that the machine does, but it's how fun it is to ride it. So throttle response is one of the main focus we have on the development of our products. Let's say it starts from OEM at 200 horsepower, we can get you to 320. So the thing is, once you want to pass to Stage 2, we need to remove back pressure with the exhaust. So we supply exhaust 2.5 inch. By reducing the back pressure in the exhaust, we can increase the boost. The Stage 2 gives you 250 horsepower. The Stage 3, without interfering anything on the machine yet, we get to 280. And the fact that we're going that high on power, on pump gas, we release a multi-map function that you can adjust the power setting in the dash. So let's say you have the NOx system activated because you have bad gas in whatever place you go to ride, then you can just revert it back to Stage 2. For the packaging on the Stage 4, the main concern we had, and even we have a Stage 5 coming soon, which will make 450 horsepower. Personally, I don't want to drill any holes in my machine. I don't want to remove or cut anything. So everything is designed so it fits like OEM. You don't have to grind or remove parts. Everything fits like it was done from factory like that. The only thing you need to change on the Stage 5, the Stage 5 needs bigger intercooler piping, so you just have to oversize a little bit the two holes in the front, and that's it. You don't touch anything else on the machine, and we take a lot of time to make sure that the design is right, because just a part like a header that is touching the frame will give false knock, false vibration in the engine, so you don't want to have to run into this. So it's very important that the clearance is clear everywhere. So that's how we design everything.
So we've been able to do a lot of cool stuff in the factory ECU itself. The launch control was definitely one of the more interesting challenges. I had to really understand how the ignition system works on the machines, how the fueling system works on the machines, and to deliver a launch control system that really maximizes the performance and really we've added a traction control system to the launch system essentially, where you can, in the dash itself, you can go modify depending on the conditions of the day, and it'll have substantial effect on what the machine will do out of the hole. Adding the extra features and adding controls for those extra features through the dash, that's been a really interesting project. So the best way to do it is to get as much info as you can from our website, see what pieces you need to put together to get to that level. It's all described in detail. Basically for stage 1, 2, and 3, it's basically a reflash, and for stage 2 and 3, you're adding on an exhaust. And you have some choices there, as you know, you got the variable exhaust or just a fixed exhaust, depending on what feature you want. And then we've also got a standalone gauge cluster upgrade, which will give you all the features I just talked about on any flash, even a stock machine or even a competitor's flash. You can get all those peak readouts and the boost gauge and the air fuel gauge. You get all that on any machine. I think we've got a really nice product in these machines, and we're gonna try to keep that expertise up for other up-and-coming machines as well.
They're gonna let me try my hand here at titanium TIG welding. Somehow though, I don't think it's gonna look as good as this.
That's good, that's good. Actually, for a first time, it's very good.
Still though, this looks a little bit better than mine yet.
But there's a lot of hours of practice.
I was gonna say, yeah, you've got some time to do that.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Thank you very much, man.
Before we were allowed to leave Precision, Sebastian insisted I try the shop sled with stage 4 kit and launch control. Activated through the high beam button, the sled belches flame while it builds boost when you hold the throttle wide open. Then when you let go of the button, that's when the real fun begins. In 2017, Skidoo introduced the Gen 4 platform into the REV lineup, but there was a bit of a hole at the top because there was no RS model to be found. That problem has been solved in 2018. The RS is back, but it's a spring-only model, so if you didn't pony up early, well, you're basically SOL. Now, if you're one of the lucky few who did spend the money in the spring to get yourself on one of these things, you can take this opportunity to go talk to DJ or get yourself something to drink because you already know what this buggy is all about. But if you're one of the ones who've been watching these sleds on the trails, wondering what you've been missing, well, this burns for you. Probably a good thing you don't know what you're missing, because if you did know what you were missing by not riding an RS, you would probably just write this whole season off, stay at home rocking back and forth waiting for next season. This sled is next level. When the Gen 4 chassis was introduced last year, it was quickly referred to as a cheater sled by the staff of OSM and STV. Packaged with the RAS3 front, R-Motion rear, and the new 850 E-Tech, this machine could turn just about any rider into Ricky Racer, instantly making them faster than more experienced riders on other sleds. Add the RS into the mix for 18, and this sled becomes an even bigger cheater than an Elvis impersonating card carrier at Vegas with an ace up their sleeve. It's that good. And it all starts right here. The mechanical bits and bodywork are packed tightly around each other to really give this thing a feeling of a small sled. I mean, it just feels tight and right. Plus, there's still plenty of room to hang ham off the side or belly up on the bars so you can do what you need to do going into the corners. Plus, the bars themselves, they're adjustable forward and back so you can adjust the sled to you and not the other way around. Plus, on the RS, the steering post itself, it's moved a little farther forward in the chassis, and that aids in the transition from seated up to standing. The suspension of the RS is also optimized for the rider who is looking for the best bump performance possible at any speed. But it isn't so stiff that it's unmanageable on anything but the biggest snowcross kickers. It's a nice compromise from the RS's racetrack heritage. Now, I've ridden snowcross sleds on the trail and they basically suck. So even though this sled is the closest thing you can get to the real thing, it still works in the real world. If there is a drawback to the G4 platform, and especially on the RS models, is the fact that this sled is so quick to turn, like a cat on a carpet, you really need to be on your game when you start to push the sled hard into the corners. But by that time, you're probably so far ahead of the other guys, you can afford to back off anyways, giving them a little bit of hope. And while we're on the subject of drawbacks, you're definitely not going to confuse this machine for a Warham touring one, and that's because there's absolutely no windshield. I mean, you can't even call this thing a gauge cover because it doesn't even cover the gauges. So if you're planning on riding this buggy in the middle of the winter on those cold, crisp nights, I'd maybe think about putting a window in front of you. One thing that's not lacking on the RS is the amount of tuning this sled brings to the rider. It starts right up front with the Pilot TS adjustable skis. This knob can vary the height of the effective keel and runner so you can tune for the snowpack depth of the trail. Then you've got the KYB Pro Level shocks that are both compression and rebound adjustable on the front suspension. Moving back, the steering post can also be moved fore and aft to vary up your ride position and to suit your style. Then, under the tunnel, you've got the R-Motion rear suspension that has both external preload and compression dampening adjustments for the rear arm. The front arm of the skid, though, is conventionally adjustable from underneath. Powering the RS is an 850 E-Tech engine that has noticeably more grunt than the old 800. It, combined with the more effective P-drive clutch, really makes this combination rev, translating into a flicky feel of the sled on the trails. Between the trees, this machine is an absolute rocket. Then in the bumps, the engine has enough power to hike the skis at will, and it always has enough for that extra blip to launch off a kicker whenever it's needed. The power delivery of the 850 is a near perfect match for the improved RS suspension package of the MXZ. The ride opinion of this buggy with everyone around here is that the RS is the most precise Skidoo they have ever ridden. It's just plain fast everywhere. The buzz around here hasn't backed off a single bit since we first rode pre-production units of this machine back in the spring of 2017. And when this machine arrived at our offices, it sucked everyone away from their desks to come back in here and have a look at it. Plus that enthusiasm, well, it's still going strong into the riding season because this thing is still on everyone's honey list.
Hi, I'm Larry Enticer. Welcome to another installment of Lawn Ornaments, where viewers submit their finds of snowmobiles left behind. Let's take another look at today's winner. Today we got one sent in from Ken Knopf. Got this Raider, yes it is, and it looks like something straight out of Star Trek. He's got it up on the rocks, up on a skid. Wants to make sure it doesn't get any scratches. He keeps the weeds knocked down from it. It's going to be a nice sled. Well, Mr. Knopf, that's all we got for you today. I'm going to send you this t-shirt so you can keep on sending it.
The list of needs on the Dragon have been met, so now it's time to turn to the wants. And I want to make this thing into a long track. I don't know, there's something about long tracks that's always appealed to me way back to my very first performance snowmobile, which is a 1990 Indy 650 SKS model. There's something about all that track at the back that makes a sled look good. So I went back to Spoiled Sports and made a deal to swap out the original 121-inch skid for a used Polaris 136-inch skid frame. Now this new used frame does need a little bit of TLC, so we're going to swap out things like the shocks, we're going to move them over, maybe a couple of bogey wheels, throw on a new set of high faxes, but what this new skid really needs is a new set of bearings. Snowmobile bearings live in an environment that is basically brutal on them. Grit, snow, water can all get hammered past the seals, and once that happens, the rusting begins. And once that starts, there's no saving the bearing. It's just a matter of time before total failure. NTN has got a bearing that incorporates some new technology to help fight that rusting and prolong bearing life. So we went right to the source to get the inside scoop on NTN's new Black Ice bearing.
NTN Bearing Manufacturing is a worldwide company that we have manufacturing and sales facilities all over the world in all the industries, which basically wherever there's a moving part, there's a bearing, and NTN plays a role in that. Snowmobile bearings are probably the worst environment you can put a bearing in. The snow, the melting snow, when you're crossing rivers, the sand down the side of the road, that type of stuff, it doesn't get any worse for a bearing. In the new black ice bearing, what we've done is we've black oxide coated the bearing inside and out. We changed the cage design to a polyamide fiberglass reinforced cage. So what we're trying to do is take the rust out of the bearing. So having the black oxide inside out and the new cage design, we're hoping that there's no rust now that will occur. The grease fill in these bearings, along with our Formula brand, which everyone's aware of, these bearings both have 70% grease fill. A normal bearing that you would buy for any application has normally 30% grease fill. These snowmobile bearings have 70% grease fill. The seal design on the new black ice bearing is a double lip, full contact seal that rotates on the inner ring. So there's as much contact in the bearing as possible to keep dirt and water out, but yet still allows the bearing to rotate. What you typically see in a bearing that has failed is the idler wheel will not rotate. So that is telling you that water has got in there and it seized the rolling elements to the inner and outer ring. The best thing you can do for a bearing is rotate the track during summer months. That's when the water will, when it's seeped in there, it will tend to sit there, and then it evaporates and then rusts. And rust is what takes out the bearings. Bearings on a snowmobile eventually will wear. There's no if, and, or buts about it. Like we said previously, it is the worst environment for a bearing. And in fact, in all the industries that we're involved in, snowmobile bearings have the worst environment.
The new black ice bearings are a bit more expensive than stock OE replacements, but a little extra scratch spent here is a good thing because the longer service life with the black ice bearings will keep you on the trails and out of the service bay, which is always a good thing. I should just start shooting the show myself. Hey, can I get a camera credit for this show? You want to see what that sign says? Well, I got a great shot right now. I put a new sign up. I don't even know why we need them anymore. I can just do it all. What do you think?
Don't kid yourself.
Snowmobiles and trailers go together like super glue and fingers. From small ones all the way up to big Uber trailers like this, it's just a necessary part of the game to get to where we gotta go ride. Another part of trailer ownership is falling on your ass when you're trying to walk up the inclines or spinning out on your snowmobile when you're trying to load it. Now there's a couple of ways you can solve this problem. Everything from screwing down an old ratty snowmobile track all the way up to engineered systems like this one from those crafty fellas at Superclamp. This modular system is made up of Super Traction grids and Super Glide 2 runners for under the skis. Each piece is individually screwed to the trailer deck, and with the two widths, the runners of the system can be spaced out to fit any size trailer. In our case, we're covering the floor from wall to wall, but there's no reason you couldn't leave a larger space along the length between the traction grids and glides. One of the tricks for installing the guides is to put a little spacer between each one. That way when they expand or contract, they're not going to butt into one another, because if they do and you install them end for end butted together, when they expand, they're going to go all wavy on you. So this will allow them to expand and contract.
The system offers enough traction for use with any type of track, and the traction grids are aggressive enough to still provide grip if they get covered with snow and ice. They're also really well secured. There's 18 screws holding each piece down, which means they won't easily rip off if you're aggressive on the throttle loading your snowmobile. In addition, the Super Glides for your skis have traction cleats built in to provide grip for not only your boots, but for tires as well. So if your trailer pulls double duty for hauling your ATVs, the glides will work here too. Along with the deck accessories, Superclamp sent us their Superclamp system as well. This includes the ski crossbar and their rear hold down. Each are super easy to use and quick to lock your machines down for transport, which means keeping the constabulary happy by securing your cargo cannot get any easier. Once you have planned out and installed the supplied floor mounts, the Superclamp use an over-the-center cam system to clamp your skis and the rear suspension to the floor, with a simple pistol grip. Then, there's a safety key to make sure nothing ever moves, or the key can be substituted for a lock for extra theft protection.
Another benefit to holding your sled down like this is that it kind of makes it into a bit of a shock absorber. Just like that. And it really does take a lot of the bounce out of the trailer when you're traveling down the road, especially on those light-duty two-place open decks. Installing a system like this one from Superclamp is going to take you about a day because, well, there's just a lot of screwing around to do. But once you've got it installed, it's going to protect the deck of your trailer, and loading and unloading your snowmobile is going to be super easy. With all this stuff installed, it's time for this guy to head out and pick up some more buggies so we can hit the snow. But that's going to have to be for another show, because right now, this one is over. So we'll see you next time.
Hi.
Don't mind us.
That's okay. Come on in. We're just ripping the out of this thing.
I thought that was mine.
Sounds like a go-ahead to me.
It sounds like